Okay, so today we are going to continue on superior interface characteristics. And following the superior interface characteristics, um, I have a word about uh, color. Many people like color in user interfaces, but some developers overuse it. So, first of all, when designing the interfaces, we should consider colorblind population. So, whenever we use color to convey information, to give information to the interface, we should use clear secondary cues. So, in addition to color information, there will be wording, shapes, positioning, and so secondary cues, including the information, so that if you don't get the color, then you will still be able to use it. Not only for color blindness, but also sometimes output devices are kind of broken and display colors incorrectly, like the projectors in classrooms. Sometimes projectors in the classrooms are um, operated with broken cables, several problems with the cables. So some colors show differently because RGB channels are distorted. So therefore, relying only on the color creates problems. Therefore, secondary cues can consist of anything from the subtlety of grayscale differentiation to having different graphic or different text label associated with each color presented. For example, the sign of the stop sign is red, but in addition to red, it has a symbol or stop on it. So whenever you see stop, you read it and then you realize it's a stop sign, not because only it is red. So freedom is important. So users should be able to feel that they are free for exploration. So to do that, giving the users well-marked roads and landmarks and let them shift into a faster and exploratory navigation in the application. Together, safety, smoothness, consistency of the natural landscape, like you are going around in an open space, if many places are safe, if you feel that the environment is safe, then you explore. If you feel that the environment is dangerous, you can be in trouble, then you don't go. So if you provide that kind of safety and uh, smoothness, then people will explore the application and they will learn the functions. If you guide the users into only one single path, then it is not good. But try to navigate them, try to guide them as well. It lets users, new user, and the user who just wants to get the job done in the quickest way possible as a no-brainer, while still enabling those who want to explore and play what-if scenarios with different ways of using the application. So there must be different ways of using the application, but the easiest one should be probably visible and obvious. So as we as we have multiple levels of users, the closer we get to the native end of experience curve, so inexperienced people, the more we have to rein in our users. single use applications for accomplishing an unknown task require more direction than habitual use interfaces, such as kiosks. And just like telephones and many other today's applications, beginning location is important. So offer users stable perceptual cues for a sense of home. If you are at home, you should feel comfortable, and it's kind of a starting point, home, the default screen. So if you can easily go back to the home screen and home uh, presence, then people will like it. So in the iPhone, for example, going back to home is relatively easy. Therefore, people are not afraid, because if they don't like it, they just press and come back to home. With the new buttonless design, it is kind of more difficult because sense of home is somewhat distorted. You have to understand how to swipe up and go to home. It's one tick more difficult in expense of a uh, screen area. The same thing, allow easy way out. So if user doesn't like to continue, users should never feel that they are trapped. Easy exit is essential. So for mobile applications and web applications, just close the window and you are out. So easy out is very important. They should have a clear path for exit and for the main screen. In the beginning, they made the applications difficult to leave. With the advent of the web, we have seen the advent of software that makes it difficult to stay also. With the links and going to different directions, some applications are very difficult to stay because they direct you to other places through the web. So, for example, if working with complex transactions using standard web browser, turn off the menu bar and all the other irrelevant options like banking applications so that you supply everything. Then uh, accidental exit becomes impossible. Some people leave back button in the banking application. So some people use back button in the browser, then the banking application quits. Therefore, you have to disable the uh, you should open a new window and disable the back button, the browser buttons, because browser buttons behavior and the in-application web button behavior are different. So you should turn off those kind of unnecessary exit options if it is a complex transaction like banking application. So we have seen what FitFlow is for movement. Use large objects for important functions. Big buttons are faster. Use pinning actions to sides, bottom, top, and corners of your display. So, for example, going to the right and clicking. There is a button on here on the right. You go there and click. You move the mouse and click. If there is a space, I assume that this is a button here. Okay, this is a button up here. Oops. When you move your mouse cursor may pass over the button, and if you click, it is not on the button. Therefore, you don't capture the click because it is clicked outside of the button. You have to stop earlier. Therefore, designing a button so that the active area is towards the edge of the screen in those cases prevents such mistakes. Usually, when you have buttons should not touch to each other. But the active area, active capture area, can be a little bit bigger. Okay. In that case, the performance of clicking is enhanced. So even if you click a little bit outside of the button, you should still click, you should still pick up the click. So even in the experiments, 1 pixel boundary to the edge of the screen, 1 pixel boundary slows down 20 to 30% amount because of you have to slow down. Just throwing to the right and clicking doesn't work that way. This is extremely important in industrial setting. If you are working with multiple buttons around and put your arm farther away and click. If you have to stop at a certain distance, then it's kind of slower because you shouldn't go that far. But if it doesn't make any sense, going to the right and clicking, going to the right and clicking, going to the left and clicking, then it becomes faster. So reaching should should not be limited for frequently used actions. Otherwise, people has to pay attention, and that kind of paying attention, slowing down, moving precisely, slows you down. This is what Fitts law tells us. Fast applications are usually good, but how fast? So try to use multi-threaded application structure so that interface thread will be functioning differently from the application thread. If application thread and interface thread will be asynchronously running, then you will be able to capture user actions in a quite fast fashion. But you should also provide feedback. Acknowledge all clicks by visual or audio feedback within 50 milliseconds. So I click, and within 50 milliseconds, interface should respond. Otherwise, we say that it is kasıyor. It's kind of slow, sluggish. Okay? So 50 milliseconds is the norm. If it is going to be longer than 50 milliseconds after capturing, then display an hourglass and animate it so that system is processing your action. So after acknowledgement, you click is acknowledged by having the button color change, for example. Button color changes when you click and goes down fine within 50 milliseconds, and up to 500 milliseconds, meaning that half a second, it should respond the answer. I am not saying responding to the user click, responding to the action. So it should be in half a second. If it is going to take longer than half a second, then you should display an hourglass or rotating ball or whatever you want. Up, up until 2 seconds. After 2 seconds, you should say that it may take a while verbally, then keep running the hourglass. In order to keep user occupied and in order to provide positive feedback, log scrolling, showing file names in the installation, right? So showing what is happening, having a progress bar, rotating something and flashing something again, another thing together to make it more entertaining is good. Therefore, if the user has to wait, keep him or her occupied. If it is longer than that, make the task a background task so that when it is finished, you can retrieve it back later. So to do that, communicate the actual length through the animated progress indicator. Offer, as I said, engaging text messages to users as it is happening. If it is going to take longer time, like 30 seconds, like backup process, then if it is longer than 10 seconds, then when it is returned, make the client system beep and give a large visual indication, blink somewhere around the corner, so that users can come back to the task, like flashing menu bar. Finished. So when you, because for tasks that are longer than 10 seconds, people are going to do something else. They will go to newspaper, they will go to Twitter, they will go back to their Word document. So they will do something else. Therefore, if it is longer than 10 seconds, provide a feedback that is designed to put them back to work. Lastly, you start the interface, you click, nothing happens, click, nothing happens. Oh my God, click, nothing happens. Wait a couple of seconds and 3 instances of the same application pops up. Therefore, you have to close other two, or it will give you messages indicating that uh, the document is already open. You don't need to open again, but you didn't give me feedback. So if the interface doesn't give you feedback in an appropriate time, if you don't capture clicks in 50 milliseconds, user will think that the system is not taking my clicks and keeps clicking on the same button because it doesn't work. So I will give you a nice example. I will show you a nice example from Technopark site. Let me find a Okay. This is from our Technopark. You can see it, right?
Yes, hocam.
So there is a project sent to me, and I am going to evaluate it. And in order to evaluate it, first I have to respond to the request from the Technopark so that it will be assigned to my evaluation queue. So please carefully watch what happens when I am clicking and how long it takes. It's actually fast now. Normally, it takes 5 seconds. I am impressed. It's now fast. I clicked, nothing happened, then it's coming. So when I click, see, when I click, I don't see the feedback. I have to see immediate feedback. I don't see it. There is slight feedback, but in this one, it stays there. This one goes down and up. See, it goes down and up. The blue button goes down and up. This one goes down sometimes. Not to mention the fact that the text is under the buttons. So, yes. Therefore, um, multiple clicks to the same window uh, or button uh, should be picked up uh, as a single click.
Hocam,
Yes.
there is a Google algorithm for that exponential growth, I guess. If user tries to refresh the page again and again and again, Google algorithm exponentially waits the user to makes user enable to keep busy the server.
Yes, because it thinks that it's a denial of service attack.
Yes, yes. It's called exponential backoff. I'm sorry, not.
Yes, that's for security.
Yes.
But in order to prevent that, why is user is clicking refresh, refresh, refresh? Because nothing is happening. So if something is happening, user will wait. Therefore, when you click on something, put a message, make an animation, move the button, and make a hourglass so that a person will wait rather than clicking again, again, again, again. And that also gives a lot of difficulty in databases, in applications, because user thinks it's not taking my commands and keeps sending the same command, and same command is processed by the back office again and again, which creates problems. Some applications say click only once in submit. Do not press multiple times because they couldn't fix the program very well. So if you click submit twice and the thing is submitted 2 times, or second submit will be failure, or it will create worse scenarios. Therefore, they decided to put a notification saying, please click only once. So it is not a good thing. If you click once, put a capture it and put a message and disable the second click. If it's clicked once, then user shouldn't be able to click second time. If there is no possibility for second time clicking, such as submit, if it is taken, then do it. So about the content, readability, etc. Generally, black text on white or paper color background is better. Avoid gray background. Gray background is very difficult to use. Use font sizes that are large enough to be readable on standard monitors. So usually developer monitors are bigger than user monitors. When you are testing and designing your application, what you do is you use your own monitor and you don't expect people to use old phones and smaller phones, smaller monitors, etc. So you don't look at their window. Therefore, use font sizes that are large enough to be readable on standard monitors, not your monitor. And favor particularly large characters for the actual data we intend to display, as opposed to labels and instructions. So labels should be smaller than actual data. For example, you are going to have adı, soyadı, etc., right? When you are filling adı, soyadı fields, somewhere you will have the word adı and a box, soyadı and a box. So the font size for adı, soyadı, the labels and instructions should be smaller than the actual data. Okay? And sometimes older people have difficulty in reading, and also in the way they read. The way they read is different. Therefore, try to look at your interface with the eye of an old person. As you follow the user in the system, track the user state. With the new technologies, it is very easy. So track where the user is, where the user was, where the user is going, and actually you can infer certain artificial intelligence algorithms using artificial intelligence algorithms, learning algorithms, and provide users some kind of help before they proceed. Hani lep demeden leblebi olayı. So that is what we say clickstream analysis. Make good use of what they have done, and make good use of what they have done in the past. If it is a login system, you can track the user behavior from their previous logins. Therefore, frequently used items can, for example, automatically be updated. Therefore, clickstream analysis is used for updating the frequently used items in the menu, which will empower the user more. Something that is not frequently used can be covered. In this interface, we have the cover in the climate control. Why do we have cover? It's an interesting fact because those options are not frequently used. Frequently used items are outside. less frequently used items are inside. Therefore, for different levels of users, interface is accommodated, such as if it's an expert user, household expert user, and trying to set up the weekly program, etc., you open up the box. But if you are just changing the temperature a little bit and changing the mode, etc., uh, then this will be done from outside. This is for I think VSMan Combi, uh, electronic combi control from outside, external controller. So unless one is writing a text document, unless you are writing the homework, generally in the interaction, data entry is less frequent than data consumption. So usually you consume data coming from the computer, not the other way around. Therefore, data entry is not an easy task, and it's kind of hard to do it without a keyboard. So when we are using mobile applications, data entry is relatively hard. Lately, we are seeing uh, lately we are seeing voice interfaces, but it is still not as fast as the keyboard, because keyboard is always faster than the speech. For speeding up the data entry, default values must be utilized, giving examples in the fields, using smart lists, and also selection of items rather than entry is easy. If you have numerical keypad, if it's an industrial equipment, so if it's a kind of a configuration of a certain industrial equipment, you can associate menu items with numbers. Therefore, rather than going in the screen, rather than going with the up and down arrows and up and down arrows and selecting, you can type the menu number, then enter, like 12, enter, or 7, enter. Instead of going down 7 times and enter, 7 enter is faster. Therefore, in the industrial equipment, with numerical keypads or automotive equipment or whatever you have, selecting with numbers is also efficient. Generally, mouse is slower than keyboard. When the system is continuously used, such as vergi dairesi, municipality, courthouse applications, bank applications. So when the person is using the same thing over and over and over, do not rely on mouse, because hands are on the keyboard. So everything should be done with the keyboard and with the tabs, space, tab, arrow keys, tab, space, arrow keys. No mouse should be required, because anytime you have to leave the keyboard, go to the mouse, find the mouse cursor, move it, reposition it, going back to keyboard, it takes time. Therefore, moving from one field to another field, okay, should be done by the keyboard, not with the mouse, with the tab key. Also, when the new page is come, the focus must be in the first data field. If the focus is on the page rather than the field, when you start typing, nothing happens. And the user suddenly realizes nothing is happening, then understands, if possible, understands that the area is not clicked, decides to leave the keyboard, goes to mouse, find the mouse cursor, go to the first area in the form, click the first field in the form, then go back to keyboard and start typing. Then he can move, if the application is written correctly, then he can move with the tab. So wrist and arm fatigue occurs otherwise, in addition to time being lost. So if data is entered is coded, code table should be placed next to the entry device, not at the back of the device. We should not expect people to memorize those codes, such as the example shown here. The instructions are in front of the machine. So you use those letters to program your washing machine. Okay. Generally, we understand that users enter data believing that they are correct. These values should not be erased when returning back from the next screen. All users believe that they are correct and they want to finish the task. So it is extremely important when the device is without keyboard and you are entering the information, more are you sure messages are required, because, for example, typing password is not that easy. By the way, before giving the break, I have a question for you. Some banks require that you enter 6-digit SMS message, okay, in order to log into their two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication, 6-digit number. Some others send alphanumeric messages in two-factor authentication. Which one do you think is preferable?
From user side, I think numeric one. It's more practical, but security side, alphabetic more secure.
How secure the second one is?
I don't know.
Herkese soruyorum. Düşünün sesli.
Hocam, the probability is maybe because of two letter is low to find the password, because there is two
It
letter
is
in the second.
it is two-factor authentication code, not the password. So you don't write it down to anywhere. It is only valid for 1 minute. So nobody is going to use dictionary attacks to crack two-factor authentication because there is no time. So the reality is it's not more secure because it is not a password. It is the code. Therefore, you are going to use this in your future careers somewhere. Try to use numbers because it is complex enough to be valid for 1 minute. If it was a password, then we understand that it's more secure. But also, passwords must be easy to remember. If the password is not easy to remember, how are you going to remember? Being easy to remember doesn't mean that easy to guess. So try to make it easy to remember by two CX something like this. This way, you can memorize it a little bit easier. In terms of complexity and guessing, there is no difference, but memorization is now easier. Or 2CX 014. It is easier to memorize than this one. Because it's more continuous and people have harder time to memorize it. Memorization is different than guessing. Also, if the topic is password now, this could be 0 or O. Okay? So how do you differentiate 0 from O? With some fonts, you can't. Therefore, when you are sending message, you may think that it is visible, but the recipient is using different fonts so that O and 0 looks the same. Then they will have trouble because they will think that it is 0 when it was O, or they will think O when it was 0. And that kind of thinking is highly influenced by the neighboring characters. If the neighboring character is letter, then you will think that it is O. If the neighboring character is number, you will think that it is 0. Same thing is valid for L and 1. L and 1. So 1 should be with the head put clearly. L and I. Those fonts must be clearly differentiated. Otherwise, people will have hard time understanding it. And you should also consider client font size, not the font that you are sending. Okay. So typically in the apartment entry system, what is the password for the apartment? Usually it is 111. So or 1000, something like that. This is kind of an interesting. You can search or you can call the apartment number. You can also search the name, because in the old days you had different buttons for each floor when not many people were living in the apartments. One apartment was hosting like 6 families. The flats were large, apartments were relatively small, and they were street apartments. Okay. Now it says your name. Name. So it was easy for postman to find the name. For example, this one says Göktürk, and you press this button to ring my door. But with this complex thing, it's not easy. Therefore, which one do you prefer? I prefer this one, of course. Easy. But even if you have this one, you can punch the name and call, or use this to navigate with the names. It is not easy. You have to read it. Not many people can do it, but it's okay. It's difficult, so it's not a good system. This is an old system. New ones have color screens and more advanced menus, touch screens. Touch screen is not that easy because a courier guy, courier guy is wearing gloves. With the gloves, it could be, if it's not special gloves, they have special gloves sometimes. If it's not special glove, they have to take the gloves out. So buttons, physical buttons have certain advantages in some cases like this. So touch screen is not always good. Also, with the touch screen, if the screen is wet, raining, or cleaned with a substance, temporarily it becomes inoperative. With the buttons, that's not the case. So, okay, let's give a 10 minutes break and come back in 11:35. Okay, so I'm back. There was some noise outside, so it's finished. So, thinking about forms, user interaction today is highly performed using data entry by forms. Whenever you open up a web application, you generally supply information like your first name, last name, blah, blah, blah, blah. So most applications have forms to fill. Multiple information in one screen is required and captured by the application. That is what form is. And it is similar to paper-based forms. Unfortunately, in Turkish culture, enterprise operations and culture is not that developed. So in government as well, we have dilekçes, petitions, in addition to forms, and more common. In more developed societies and governments, forms are more common. So, for example, if you have some problem with the department, with the exam, if you are going to object the exam, there is an exam objection form. You fill out the exam objection form and give the form to the secretary. But in our department, you have to fill dilekçe. So it's like a free format data input. The advantage of form is the location of information, all the required information is predetermined. So as you process the information, as you process the form, you need to fill out all the locations. So errors are minimized. When you are filling dilekçe, the possibility of making an error is very high because you need to remember what to put in your dilekçe. That is recall-based interface. You have to remember what is necessary, and furthermore, you may put unnecessary information. That unnecessary information can create burden for the person who is reading it because it becomes complicated. Your letter becomes complicated. You may explain your life story in the dilekçe to get more credits. But in the forms, it's very unlikely. So for advanced users and developed interactions, form is good. In our university, we are trying to establish all the operational processes supported by forms, such as graduation form, thesis submission form, advisor changing form, etc. So those are all connected to forms, and those paper-based forms are available in the quality assurance page in the campus website, so that you download that form, fill it, and print it, and send it to the correct place. In coming years, if you are going to move paper-based forms that are downloadable from quality assurance page to fully electronic business operation, campus business operation, then what we will do is change those forms to web forms and keep the information is business workflow in the application. So it will be easy. Therefore, dilekçe will disappear in many operations, well-defined operations. So having a form similar to paper-based form actually is a good thing. It's good for advanced users, and moving between the forms should be done by the tab key. So you need to check whether it is working or not. If it is desktop. If it is mobile, then you need to click to the next field. Each field may contain selection control, and that should be obvious. Having form requires bigger screen estate, so sometimes a form can be divided into multiple forms, page 1, page 2, page 3, etc. So scrolling or paging is a matter of decision, but it is known generally that for novice users, division of forms into multiple screens, form page 1, form page 2, form page 3, is better than a scrolling big form. Scrolling big form is good for advanced users. Multiple pages with forms is better for novice users. As an alternative, when you go to post offices, has been around in the world for a long time. So post office operations are very wide. It touches to many different people, from very advanced educated person to the uneducated person. They all go to post office. Today, with the advent of electronic age and email, and also declining role of the government, post offices in Turkey, unlike United States, United States, it's still advanced. In Turkey, is less used because they don't deliver letters correctly, etc. So they don't deliver it in time. Not quickly, but in time. Therefore, they have current problems. But since it has been a long time from their establishment, over 100 years, maybe 200 years, if we go back to original post office operations in Ottoman Empire, and struggles to get the post office operations back from Austrians and French and German post offices and nationalize post office operations. It was a big challenge for Ottoman Empire. After that, nationalization of post office operations are done in Ottoman time before Turkish Republic. So it was a good decision. Unfortunately, today we are losing our cargo companies to again foreign investors. So it's becoming again, postage and packaging are becoming again a foreign operation. So why am I telling about this? Because what I observe is post office is the most advanced citizen interaction procedures in the country. They have forms for everything. They have tickets. They have numbering system. They have routing procedures. They have ordering procedures. They have pricing policies. So they all are well established. For the forms, that is interesting because when you go to post office and you want to send this letter to somebody, a quick letter, they give you the form and say, fill the form. Why? Because they don't want to spend time on decoding your letter, decoding the writings on your letter. They don't want to spend time on understanding you, where you want to send the letter. Is it going to be insured or what? Is it going to be, does it contain something valuable? So all you have to do is make check marks in the form and give it to the person. So processing time is faster. It is extremely common in post offices. And second to post offices is government tax offices. There are tax forms. It is computerized now, but again with the forms. And the third one is the banks. Since banks are usually private, they want to please the customers. When they want to please the customers, they are more dialogue based. Teyzeciğim ne istemiştiniz? Nereye para gönderecektiniz? Kaç para göndereceksiniz? Tamam siz verin ben göndereyim falan. Because it's a private enterprise, dialogue-based interaction is more preferable in the banks. But in the taxation offices, municipalities, and post office is very important. Form-based interaction is more preferred. It's more efficient. Therefore, for novice users and more customer-oriented interaction, dialogue-based entry is better. If you don't have to do it, dialogue-based interaction is better because it's more pleasing. And on the other hand, advanced users may dislike it after repeated use. Bazen I am switching to Turkish sometimes. Sometimes a merchant comes with a bag of money to deposit to the bank. What happens? It comes every day. What happens is the merchant already knows the guy. It goes back, puts the money to some desk, and starts filling a form and starts doing something related to the operation because he or she already knows it. She already knows the process. So dialogue-based interaction, welcome sir, how are you today? What do you want to do? Those are unnecessary if you are coming every day. Therefore, for novice users and occasional use, dialogue-based entries are better, but for advanced users and repeated use, such as the use in car service, port service, you are going to take your car and they're going to fill the form. If the interface is going to be dialogue-based, please enter welcome. Please enter the license plate number. Okay, then please now enter the telephone number. Okay, then it will be tiring. Therefore, for those kind of repeated users, form is better. But if you are using it only for fun time, if you are the customer, owner of the car, taking your car every year to the service, then dialogue-based entry is better because it is not as frequently used as the guy in the service center. Do you understand?
Yes hocam.
Şimdi birçoğunuz bitirme projesi yapıyor, değil mi? Bitirme projesinde gözümüze şeyi dayıyorsunuz uygulamaya girer girmez. Login'i. Bankaya girerken şifrenizi soruyorlar mı? Sormuyorlar. Bankanın da bir sayfası var. Şubeye girerken soruyorlar mı? Ne için gelmiştiniz diye. Sormuyorlar. Bir içeri giriyorsun, bir bakınıyorsun. Ondan sonra. Uygulamalarınızda da kapıyı password'le kapamayın. Biraz içeri girilsin. Yoksa insanlar ya falan diye hiçbir Q almadan orada kalır. O yüzden şey gibi olmasın yani. Bar kapısı gibi olmasın yani. Parayı vermeden geçemezsin gibi böyle. Bir gir içeriye, bir şey yiyip içersen ödersin. Bu şekilde olması daha çok kullanılabilir yapar. Tabii bazı durumlarda, extreme security durumlarında mecbursunuz girişte sormaya. Çok private bir şeyse girişte sorarsınız ama diğer durumda gerektiği noktadan sonraki aşamada authentication'ı sorarsınız ki mesela e-ticaret yaklaşımında bu şekildedir. Tam artık alıp ödemeye geçtiğiniz anda size login olmanızı ister. Yoksa istemez. Bunun tabii sıkıntıları var. Nedir? Clickstream analizi yapmak zorlaşıyor. Eğer kullanıcı şeyse, loginse onu sürekli database'ine atıyorsunuz. Değilse temporary user'da cookie ile atıyorsunuz. Login olduğu anda o clickstream'i user'a transfer ediyorsunuz. Bu user bak böyle yaptı, buraları gezdi, bu ürünleri gezdi. Şey baktı, ne bileyim tencere baktı. Ben buna tencere reklamı göstereyim falan gibi bilgileri o zaman user'a aktarabiliyorsunuz. So, dialog-based interfaces are used as wizards. Size gürültü geliyor mu şu an?
Hayır hocam.
Ha,
Bana
tamam.
gelmiyor.
Üst katta Hilti kullanıyorlar. Şu an benim bulunduğum yerde. O açıdan biraz zorluk çekiyorum yani. Anyway, we call it wizard on the PC interfaces, active dialogues, telling what you do, what to do, what to do. It's also less empowering. If somebody else is telling you to do certain things, what is your name? What is your address? Tell me this. Tell me this. So you are little down in front of the other side. Cem Yılmaz'ın Pasaport parodisini izlediniz mi? Hello.
İzledik hocam, biliyoruz.
Tamam. Şimdi orada kim kime ne soruyor? So if computer is telling you to do something, then you don't feel that good. If you are filling the form, if you are directing the interaction, then you are empowered. They are helping you, not you are helping them. So that kind of psychology is very important. If the computer is telling you to fill what is your name and it is accepted, etc., then your subconsciously you don't like it. Therefore, you should start all the interactions, and system should feel like it is responding, not acting. With the dialogue, longer task completion time is obviously achieved, but for smaller screens, one question at a time or two questions at a time, and next, is a little bit easier. Also, if the collected information depends on the previous information, such as adınız, soyadınız, and cinsiyetiniz. Cinsiyetiniz de son dönemde sorun olmaya başladı. Kaç madde olacak diye. Ama ona göre başka sorular sormanız gerekiyorsa O zaman diyalog daha iyi. Form biraz daha update etmen gerekiyor formu. Bunu mesela adreslerde çok görürsünüz. İli seçersiniz. İlçeler otomatikman update olur. O şekilde yapmanız lazım. Daha zordur. Ama ili seçtikten sonra next ekranda ilçeyi göstermek birazcık daha kolaydır. Onun update edilmesi. Veya bazı şeylerin hiç gösterilmemesi, sorulmaması. Mesela yabancı öğrenciyseniz işte bir şeyden muafsınız. Ne bileyim, inkılap tarihinden muaf mısınız bilmiyorum ama öyle bir şey diyelim var. O zaman öğrenci numaranızı önce gireceksiniz ki ders listesi sonra gelsin. Ona mesela inkılap tarihini vermeyeceksiniz gibi bazı opsiyonları koyup kaldırmak, bazı soruları sorup sormayacağınıza karar vermek, opsiyonel olarak tree yapısıyla ilerliyorsa dialog based daha iyi. Ama mesela bazen formlarda şey yapar. Bu soruya evet derseniz 17. maddeden devam ediniz der. Böyle şeyler çoksa bu sanki diyaloga daha iyi gidiyor anlamına geliyor. Onları sorup yeni bir forma geçmeniz lazım. Yani oraya kadar tek forma indirmeniz lazım. Any questions? Okay. So there is a famous procedure and issue. That is what we call mode in small screens and big screens too. None of you is asking questions about graduation project, or none of you is asking about machine learning to me. Why? Because you are in human computer interaction class. You know that and you remember that you are in my class. You don't ask questions about the other class because your mode is human computer interaction now. So in any kind of interface, there are modes like setting mode, configuration, playing, recording. In the playing mode, buttons will function differently. In the recording mode, buttons will function differently. In setup, keys are different. In regular mode, the keys are different. At the beginning of the year, there was an Airbus accident, and the reason for accident was the failure to remember or failure to recognize the mode because the LED was too small. The display was too small, and the number doesn't give you enough clue that you are in different mode. You go to the tax office, go to the line. It happened to me several years ago. You go to the line in Gebze, wait for more than half an hour, fill the form, give it to the guy, and the guy says, "This is the wrong stairs. You should go upstairs." So I was in incorrect mode. One tax office was Uluçınar. The other one is İlyas Bey, and they were in different floors. They are both Gebze taxing offices, but I was in different mode. My tax office was İlyas Bey. Gebze Technical University tax office is Uluçınar, so I don't know the details. I don't have to know the details, but I was in incorrect mode. Therefore, when you are using the application, the correct mode is always present, so that you know where you are. Using the interface, you look somewhere else, and you may forget which mode you were in. Therefore, the mode information is given here with icons and also with the text so that person remembers that in certain mode. Some other interfaces, smaller interfaces without screens, has LEDs, fast blinking, slow blinking, continuously lit, color change. So even if you have one LED, by manipulating the blink rate, you can indicate different modes. Usually fast blinking is associated with setup. Slow blinking is associated with standby. Continuously lit is like operation. Okay. However, if it's a critical device, you should be very careful on that. Error modes should be, or faults should be displayed with blinks. Or you have LPG tank in the kitchen. So you don't have natural gas and you have traditional 12 kilogram LPG tank. How do you know that you have enough remaining gas in the tube? Tell me.
Can you ask again hocam?
Ocakta tüp kullanıyorsunuz. Doğal gazınız yok. Muhtemelen öğrenci evlerinde hala öyle olabilir. Tüpünüzün içinde yemeği pişirmeye yeterli tüpünüzün olduğunu nasıl bilirsiniz?
Ağırlığından biliyoruz.
Peki her yemek pişirmeden önce tartıp bakıyor musunuz?
Hayır, gaz yoksa yoktur yani. Açınca ateşi çakmağa çekince gelmiyorsa gelmiyordur.
Ama o zaman çok geç değil mi?
Yani bilmiyorum hocam, çok da tüp kullanmıyoruz yani. O kadar da bilgimiz yok.
Genç kuşak. Bunun için şey yapmışlar. Terazi yapmışlardı şeyin altında. Tüpün altına koyuyorsun terazi. Bakıyorsun, görüyorsun ne kadar kaldı diye. Full empty. Ağırlığı değişiyor ya. Daha şey durumda mesela ağırlık otomobillerde olur. Benzin göstergesi var. Bir de ışık yanar. Çok azaldı. Başka bir ders notunda vardı. Scuba diving yapacaksınız. Tüp var. İçinde yeteri kadar gaz var, şey var mı? Oksijen var mı? İçinde yeteri kadar oksijen var mı? Konusu önemli bir konu. Dolayısıyla bunu anlamak için hangi modda olduğunuzu, statüsü size bildirmesi lazım sistemin. Bu önemli. Açık mı, kapalı mı? Ayara mı girdim ben? Şu an gönderiyor muyum? Şu an ne yapıyorum? Bunları bir şekilde iletmeniz lazım kullanıcıya. Yoksa sürekli kullanıcı bunu kafasında simüle etmek zorunda. Mesela ben tüpte yemek yapıyorum. Arkadaşlarımı çağırmışım. Bir işte kuru fasulye yapacağım akşama bilmem ne. Sürekli içimde bir endişe. Tüp biterse, tüp biterse, tüp biterse diye. Peki bunu nasıl yeniyorum ben? Tüpü ne zaman aldığımı düşünüyorum. Neler pişirdiğimi düşünüyorum. Yok ya bitmez diyorum. Bu simülasyon yapıyorum kafamda. Situational awareness. Bu simülasyona göre diyorum ki ha diyorum tamam bugün bitmez tüp. Ona göre güveniyorum. Şimdi bu bana ekstra şey getiriyor. Algısal yorgunluk getiriyor. Bütün arayüzlerde bu şekilde. Eğer o information'ı sen present olarak vermezsen kişi bunu kafasında simüle etmek zorunda. Ve o simülasyon adamı yoruyor ve başka hatalar yapmasına yol açıyor. Yine Ocak Donald Norman'ın meşhur örneği. Bizim Hilti gene sürekli çalışıyor. Sanki kafana vuruyor gibi. Bütün cihazlar, bunu bir New Yorklu bir profesör, Allah rahmet eylesin, söylemişti. Bütün cihazlar dolunca kendi kapanıyor. Mesela cep telefonunu takıyorsunuz, dolunca çıkarmak zorunda değilsiniz. Patlamıyor. Mikrodalga fırınına çalıştırıyorsunuz. Çalışıyor, dınk atıyor, duruyor. Ama ocağın üzerine çaydanlık koyduğun zaman veya yemek koyduğun zaman yemek pişince ocak kapanmıyor. Yemek pişince ocak kapanmadığı için, kendisi de biraz yaşlıydı, diyor ki bütün diğer cihazlar otomatik kapanıyor diyor. Kahve makinesi kapanıyor, microwave kapanıyor, evdeki diğer cihazlar, televizyonu bilmem nesi kapanıyor. Ama ocağın üzerinde yemek bıraktığım zaman kapanmıyor. Ben de onu sürekli kafamda simüle etmek zorundayım. Ocağın üzerinde tencere var, tencere var, tencere var, tencere var diye. Bu da benim sürekli o modu hatırlamam gerektiğini, e, gereksinimini doğuruyor. Bu hatırlama gereksinimi, visibility olmaması gereksinimi sorun yaratıyor. Bunu nasıl çözebilirsin? Unutmamak için ışık yaparsın. Gazın ışığı tam görünmeyebilir tencereden. Ocağın üzerine bir tane şey koyarsın ve fırınsa fırın üzerine kuvvetli bir ışık koyarsın. LED veya ampul artı kırmızı cam. Onu gördüğün zaman her yerde açık bu dersin. Ama mutfaktaysan, değilsen yine sorun. O zaman cep telefonuna bildirim gönderirsin. Akıllı mutfak şeyiyle. Ocak açık modun. Yemek pişiriyorum ben modu. Yani modunu hatırlamak çok önemli. Some screens are very small. There are only one line or two lines. When you have that kind of small, very small screen, some part of the line or some character should be reserved for indication of the current mode. It could be blinking, it could be changing to a symbol, etc. So other information. Users should decide about what to do without any confusion about the mode. So mode information is interesting. Please pay attention to it. And data entry mode can be supported like blinking cursor or blinking word or changing colors sometimes if the color possibility is present. Make sure that mode Q is understood. So going back to dialogues, the application is called as a dialogue. An application is actually a dialogue talking to you. So that kind of applications have controlling dialogues. The main window is controlling dialogue. The controlling dialogue is the part of the interface that allows users to move through the application and complete the task. It consists of menus, tabs, toolbars, command and action buttons, etc. So selection of these and design of these menus, toolbars, and buttons come from the task analysis. So you should analyze the task. We will come back to that later. From the task analysis, you design your application. Starting with the menus. Most applications include menus. It's the common piece of complex user interfaces. It could be pull-down menu. It could be any kind of menu. Pop-up menu. I am not talking about desktop interfaces here. I am talking about all kinds of interfaces, all kinds of machines. So the idea is to make interface based on recognition rather than recall. And most menus, most advanced menus, include tree structure. The tree structure should reflect the system behavior. So many applications have branches, and then those branches become details. If it is a passive application, if it's a kiosk application, it's more like a flow. So rather than tree, it could be flow plus tree together. Many tree structure reflects the system behavior. Deeper menu levels for small screen devices are feasible. When you have smaller screens, you may have more items under the menus. When you have wider screen, you should present all the choices with different buttons. It depends from the task. It depends what you do in task analysis. But generally, wider menu and less levels is good for big screen devices. When numerical keypad is the only input device, menu items should have numbers associated with them. Number punching is the alternative. When planning pull-down menu structure for an application, we should decide on horizontal menu and vertical choices. The arrangement of these entries are coming from the task analysis. It is the user's view of the logical structure of the application, what user think. If it is the banking application, bank employee is going to use it. So what she or he thinks is important. The level of the menu is, this is the first level, and we call this is the second level menu. Try to use single word if possible. Make sure that all users understand the menu headings. If there is a submenu, reading both together should look like a phrase, like channel delete. Channel delete. If there is a single screen, this is good. If it is a pull-down menu, this is good. When we have single line display, in the second screen, channel delete should be repeated. But in the pull-down menu, the word channel should not be repeated. Okay? And it should be readable, like channel delete to the ear. An example is such as insert new slide, insert section, insert comment, insert word art. So many of them, as much as possible, many of them is readable together. They should be ordered based on the following structure. If there is a platform standard, comply with it, such as Apple menu, such as file menu. Frequent tasks, secondary. So this is the first rule. Second, frequent tasks should come to top and left in the pull-down menu. Former tasks should be placed before the latter. If there is a chronological order, then follow it, like first semester, second semester. First semester operations should be top of the second semester operations, or should be on the left if there is a horizontal arrangement. If none of them is applied, use alphabetical orders, like name of the cities, okay, in address form. So this is a bad example on the left. This is the tax website of the government. So it has the numbers associated, but nobody understands those numbers except the accountants. regular regular citizens don't understand. So it's not a good choice. This should be done in the form, not in a pop-up menu. When you have this much item, different rules and legislations, you need to put these in the form and with the radio button rather than pop-up, because this is too much and not understandable, and also there is no space to explain. Okay. If you have different devices like TVs, sometimes they open to the right. So in that case, keep the title if possible, and also allow the mode information stays on the screen. Arrow keys and select is generally became standard on remotes. Okay. For the horizontal menu, these are the horizontal menu items. Okay. So frequently used ones should come to the left. And when I look at it, I should understand what are my options in this application with this application. Depth of menu. So this is, for example, 2 level. This is level 1, then this is level 2. Menu level should be maximum 3. Restrict menu level to 3 levels or less. Group vertical entries, 4 or 5 within the group, maximum 7. So these are dividers. Okay, these are dividers. Let's go back to this one. So these are dividers. Between these dividers, okay, make maximum around 7. It's not strict rule. Around 7 items or less. Because the reason is you need to focus on that part and decide. If the list is too long, you cannot focus. You have to re-examine. It becomes very difficult like this, because there is no relation except the ordering in the numbers. So these dividers are very important. You have to bring meaningful things together into the menu. If there are too many, then you should redesign the structure. So ordering entries in the menu, both horizontal and vertical structure, should be based on the method that is appropriate for the type of the software application being designed. This is alphabetical. Once the selection is done, notify user. What happens when you select? Do you have an idea?
Maybe a sound, hocam.
No. As we said, do not use sound feedback unnecessarily. It becomes very tiring. Her menü seçtiğinde dınk mı yapacak?
Maybe a green tick.
No. I'm trying to show it to you. Keep Okay, let me show it this way. So I click on this. There is feedback. Okay. Insert. The immediate feedback is appearance. This feedback is connected to my movement. And insert new slide or insert comment, right? Insert new slide. Apple Shift N, or let's say copy, like Control C. When I do it, see what happened? It blinked, right? There is a blink, 2 times blink. You can adjust it. See, blink. It doesn't disappear immediately, it blinks. And when I do shortcut, please watch the edit part. There is a feedback in the edit. So that's the feedback of my shortcut. So something is selected from the edit menu. I can understand it. Although it is not much noticeable, it is noticeable by your subsystem. Therefore, it is important. Therefore, when selection is made, notify user after selection is complete by blinking the colorized bar once, or in some applications twice. In the past, there was also 3 times with some applications. So the basic guideline is 1, the frequency of use. 2, sequence within the task. 3, standard order used in Windows. 4, chronological. 5, alphabetic. Okay, that is the ordering. So wording of the menu entries should be based on jargon that user is familiar with, not necessarily the terminology that the designer recognizes. It should be consistent. But this is the thing that I am showing you is wrong. Horizontal menu entries, if possible, should contain single word options. Vertical menu entries should take advantage of the titles used at the horizontal level, such as student save record. When they read together, it should sound okay. It should sound okay and it should have some meaningful correspondence. If you have submenu, oops, sorry. If you have submenu, use arrow. If you have a dialog coming, use 3 dots. Going back to previous figure, this one, for example, key assist, 3 dots. These 3 dots means there is a dialog coming if I do it. Other things are direct actions. There is no dialog for selecting additional things. So it's going to complete quickly. If you need to show that an item has been selected, use check mark. But it also has implications. So make it use carefully. Abbreviations of menu entries should not be used unless you are sure that all users understand their meanings. I don't understand the meaning of these. This is what checkmark is. Today's standard. In some older applications, it's a dot. Some of them are on the right, but it should be on the left. Do not play with window. No. Do not play with menu content. Why this is gray?
It is not accessible.
It is not accessible because it doesn't apply with the current context. Some programmers, and Microsoft in the past, some programmers completely hide this. They modify the menu based on the context. It is incorrect. You need to show the available things, but make it disabled. Okay? Playing with the menu throughout the application use is not recommended. So with this, these are the accelerators. Use standard shortcut keys like Control S and Control V for save and paste, etc. Alt keys are for PC world. Not many people are using lately. So access keys are less and less used because pointers are now became an integrated part of the user interface. Without the mouse, it becomes impossible to use the application, and that is considered as a normal. So mouse is now not an extra accessory. It's the primary way of it's the primary way of interaction. And again, I am repeating this, provide feedback when selection is made. This is one of the main reasons when people are making mistakes in enterprise applications. When they select something, you don't provide feedback. When you don't provide feedback, immediate feedback. When you don't provide feedback, they say the computer is not working and kafayı yedi, etc. It's not doing. So they keep doing the same thing, and eventually they're exhausted. So provide feedback when selection is made. Most applications are used by diverse community of users. So function, control, alt, option, win key. So try to also introduce advanced way of interaction for some of the users because they are using the application. They will be using applications 10 hours a day doing the same thing. Therefore, make them fast with additional options. You should not force them to use the same old dialogue, okay, and cancel buttons, but provide additional speedy alternatives. Tabs are originated from these folders. In Turkish culture, we don't have these folders common in the office world. But in United States, in the Western societies, these kind of office folders are common. Therefore, these part of the tabs are actually these tabs that are used to differentiate folders between. So it's actually a metaphor. The ordering of tabs is the same as ordering of the menu. So left ones are more common. The leftmost one is the default one. Others are optional. They are optional. If you have to fill all of them, if they are not optional, if you have to fill them, then next button should go to the next tab rather than submit. So when you say okay here, and there is more information, here to fill, obligatory, then this shouldn't be there. There should be next button here. And OK should be at the very end. Okay. Yeah, the same thing. Order tabs using one of the methods for the menus. Toolbars are the things that we put here. So row of buttons, a vertical row of buttons on the left. Some applications have buttons here. So in terms of designing, as you see, there are dividers. Dividers here. These dividers are important for grouping. Icons must be field tested. Icons must be understood by the user community. And use supporting tooltip mouse over, but do not rely on the mouse over. This is important. Do not rely on mouse over. You have to make icon understandable. Mouse over is additional. Okay. These are interesting examples. These are from the book. That's why they are black and white. This is the famous United States mailbox. This is the phone that none of you have used this kind of phone. This is associated with the launch. Usually related to the launch application, but it is indirect reference. File cabinet, etc. Link. So save, OK, cancel buttons are referred as disposition buttons because they often are used to complete a task within conversational window. They sometimes open dialog boxes with their own command and action buttons, like properties. So when you click properties, another window opens. For example, this one. Specific task buttons. Command action buttons are here. So they should be separate because the functions are completely different. When you click OK, cancel, etc., that finishes the task. Other one doesn't finish. Okay, that's within the each dialog is a small application. Part of the application is small application. So when you click on disposition buttons, it completes the application. But other buttons, any place, continues the application. So the guideline is use unambiguous labels for identification. Use standard names and meanings for generic buttons like close, clear, exit, help. They should be meaningful for the application. Use the feedback when the button is clicked. Do not erase the window completely. Make the button go down first, then do the action. So button should contain the visible feedback. Use access keys and speed equivalents for power users, and disable buttons that do not apply in any stage for completion of the task. I think I am done for today because noise has started again. If you have any questions, I will be taking that. Wait a second, by the way.